Hi hens, doing well. So, plan for this is to start off from the beginning, kind of. Okay. So I'm gonna take the Java template that you're using there. There we go. And oh, that's your interesting nick. What made you go for that? Thought you'd be Apple or something like that. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is, this is my advent of code folder on my own GitHub. So I've got one project which is the Rust one, which I've been doing all along. So I'm gonna create a new one for Java. Make it public, no readme, create project. So that's where I'm gonna be putting up my code. I'm gonna use a template though. Yeah, not a bad way to choose a name. So the way I'm gonna go get this template and start using it is clone with SSH, because and I'm going to SSH with Git when I get around to doing that video. But I need to create a new project. So this is IntelliJ idea, and I want to create a new, no, I don't want a new project, I want from VS version control, and I'm gonna grab it from Java template is where I'm gonna grab it from. And do I want to put it into that one? My browse, add in the code. There we go. Java. Oh, I need to create a folder. Oops. New folder. So, just proper organization structure here. Maybe yes. My plan is to take the template and use it to create there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 maybe. Oh, how's the music? That's not really sitting well with me, that particular one. Anyways, so I'm taking the GitLab Java template. I'm gonna pop it in a new directory in its own. Nice little file structure. So I have a folder for admin code, broken down into years, and then subfolder of language. So yeah, there we go. This is delete the input because that was an example. Let's see, do I delete the input? Fact, no, I don't. Okay, so I need to first set up the SDK because that's saying blue bar up here. And I'm gonna go 17, which is the good one. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, these are the exact same, just renamed. No, I need to refactor, rename. Of course I bung it up. Dave, personal, in the code, 2021, Java, rename 2021. Yeah, there is a far better way to do it, and that's part of why I had the structure set up. Yeah, I bunged this up.
Lucky you and me on the Charles River.
Oh, wait, did I?
I'm just happy I never felt that before.
Fine shifted once I closed it. That is a configuration file. So I did actually bung it up. It's easy enough to fix. It is. So I just have to repeat what I did a few minutes ago. Ignore me doing this part, it's not part of it. Just to confirm, yeah, that's all in the right folder. Can I delete this file? Yeah, that works. It's a configuration file, and by deleting it, I kind of made IntelliJ forget where stuff was. Because if I go into it, you can see it has information about the project. So you have component name, new module root manager. You have the content, which is what it's saying is the module directory, which is whatever path it is, which would be here. So module dir would be this entire highlighted part. The next one is module dir / source, which is this folder here. It's basically saying where the source folder is, if that makes sense. These files are also created in BlueJ, but they are hidden from sight from here. It only lets you know about the Java files. So yeah, so that's good. So the way I set up this template was, see the input folder here? It has day00 text, and I've got numbers in there. Wait, why are you still up? You don't need to be up. And it's set up, so you see day00 here? Oh yeah, define SK, I did it last time, but need to do it again. Day00, that matches day00.text. And I'm just gonna delete day1 here and go from basics. Okay, so day00. Oh, and get back to your earlier question. See here, this is in red. If I highlight it, the 2021 it's basically saying Git has no idea what that file is. It hasn't been told to keep track of that file. So the shortcut for IntelliJ's Git interface is Control-K. And if we look at it, the unversioned file which Git has no idea about is 2021. And the files that is forgotten that it's been deleted are 2 files here. And so I'm just gonna do initial commit as the message, and I just commit. Done, dusted. So if I go back to the file view here, it's in white. It's tracking it, it's gonna do fine. That makes it. So Day1 is, where we go? Oh, and before I go on to that, I am just gonna set up this here and pass you the link in case you want that to follow along roughly with the code. I'm gonna push up my commits often enough. So see up here there's Git, and I want to set up the remotes, manage remotes, perfect. So public. So I'm setting up a remote that is named public and goes to this link here. Take a look at it in its current state if you want. Just gonna take a quick look myself to see what it looks like. Yeah, so currently it's an empty project. Nothing here. I see more stuff because it's my project. No. Here's the thing. Git does the versioning automatically for you. And so if I go back to here, click OK, and go terminal. I like using a terminal for Git because it just works for me. So I do Git Push, which means to push the code I have to the remote, which in this case is public, and main. It used to be master before, but a few people kept up kind of. We'll get to that in a minute. So it's pushed it up here to GitLab, and if I refresh my Firefox page, you can see the commits. So you can see there's 5 commits. There's 4 commits from the template stage of it, and there is 1 commit from me now setting up. So Day1. Day1 is, so keep an eye on that link. So Day1, top of the scene. So it gives you a little information, and what I'm going to use first is this here. For example, suppose you have the following report, which is these numbers here. Well, I'm skipping a step actually. So the way I set up template is day 00. I'm going to copy, paste, and go day 01. And you see it's the exact same code as the previous one, and there's a couple of things I have to do. So the first part is, you see the test here? I'm going to put in this code here, the example data it gives you. I'm going to split this 50-50 since I don't need the full screen. You go right, and there. Yeah, that will work pretty fine. So I'm going to take the example data from here and I'm going to just pop it in here. It's for fuck's sake, I missed a number. Yeah, there we go. And the good thing about the AoC is they give you the example data, and in this example there are 7 measurements that are larger than the previous measurement. So I go down a little bit further and I put in the part 1, it's 7, and use that. And test data is to see if your code works in the test data. It probably will work on the run data. And get round to the run data in a minute or two. So yeah. So I'm gonna just close up the test one and we'll come back to it in a few minutes. You don't need to concern yourself with the process input. Only the part 1 and part 2, there's only 3 functions you need to look out for. It's the part 1, part 2 and the test. Probably should put them close together, but what the heck. So oh, and there's a few other things to look at. Oh, wait, where did I put the generator? Sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit. Oh, yeah, there. So, yeah, my mistake. There's 4 things you need to look at. You need to look at the test, which is where you put test data and test results. The process input is where it takes the data, whether it be test or not, processes it into a format that is usable, and then it sends it back into the module and saves it as this dot processed. So this is a pretty simple one. I want to split it on the lines, so I want to split it on either a new line or a new line. This is regex, which is complicated. Don't really need to think about it. It's basically like the split that we used in Java before. Actually, we have used that in Java before. What this is saying is for every line in lines, because this is an array of different strings, I want to do something with it. It's a loop essentially. No need to have int I in it and incrementing a counter that way. So I want to try and catch. Try and catch is error handling. Okay, I'm trying. If you don't know anything, please let me know. I can just go back and circle. So this part splits up the input, which is this, because at the current time it's just one long string, and I want to split it up into individual strings of just the 199, then the 200, then the 208, all the strings of course. And now we want to convert the string into a number. So we try and catch is error handling. So in the try part of it, you pop in whatever you want to do. And so I want to convert line, whichever number it is, into a number. And if that works out, I want to add that number to the array that is this dot processed. The reason why it is here is because imagine if I did to convert, imagine if line was that. So if line was just, heck, even just have a comma there. If that was the line, try and convert that into a number. It would fail. And so if you did that normally in your programming, the entire program would stop there, it would halt. And you don't want that, you want it to be able to continue in case of failure. And so that's what this is. So if this is a number, it adds it to the array, and it prints out an error. How's that for you? I want to delete that, I don't really want to have that in the final. So essentially the process is to convert the string, which is this thing here, into an array of numbers. And if you keep going throughout the days, you may have to modify it a little bit to get the data you want. Kind of, but it's basically saying if all this works, that's grand, don't do anything. But if there's an error in this entire section here, print out where the error is. It's more powerful than if else. Oh yeah, but see, okay, I'm gonna use the test data here. So the input is a string. A string, how does it know that's a number? It doesn't know it's a number. And some of the later days, if I just go duplicate, change up it entirely. So do I have a good example of it here? So yeah, so this is one of the later days, day 13. It's what I'm gonna come back to myself later anyway. And each line is a mix of different things, so you have to split it up by line, and then you have to split each line up to get the numbers on that line. Not so simple. So if that makes sense to you there. So this part, the process input, is where it converts the input, which is this, into something you can use. For day 1, it is an array of numbers. So for part 1, I'm just gonna pop in my answer here. Day 1, we want to know how many, count the number of times a depth measurement increases from the previous measurement. So we want to have a count, so int count equals 0. And we want to loop through the numbers here that we have converted into a lovely array list, an array of numbers. So for int number this dot processed. This is a for loop here, and it's the same type of for loop as up here. And this is basically saying for every number in the array of numbers, do something. And I'm gonna do it by keeping a count of the no, actually no, I'm gonna go to this one for loop, and for int I equals 0, I is less than this dot processed dot length and is it? Oh, size. And it is I++. So you've seen this for loop before, the i's, the loop, and and I'm actually gonna start at the second one because we have to compare the current one with the last one. So int current equals this dot processed dot get and I, and I'm just gonna copy that and paste that and get the change the last. So -1. So the current one is whatever I is, and the last one is I minus 1. Yeah, I think I can see you popping in and out. Turn down the quality of the stream because it may be a tad high. Yeah, it's up to 144 OP at 60 frames a second, so turn that down to 180 or so at best. I'm streaming pretty high quality. If you're having issues, you can turn down the quality of the stream. It's quite high at the moment. Let me know. I just popped it in Discord earlier. So what I want to do is I want to compare the current one with the last one. So if current is greater than last, I want to add to the count. So count plus equals 1. So adding 1 to the count, and it's yeah, it's working. Yeah, wait a little bit. You may get ideas from me here, and what I'm doing at the end is I'm setting this dot part 1 equal count. So I'm creating a count. I'm going through all the numbers in the array, and I am then returning it as a part 1. So let's go to AoC, and I want to run it because it's already added here, and that will pop up below here once it compiles for me. Okay, so yeah, that's gonna give it a little bit of issue. So yeah, that's gonna be issues. But yeah, that part is lovely. part 1 correct. And I need to quickly do a part 2 and I'll come back to you. So part 2 is normally an extension of the part 1. So you can normally copy and paste from part 1 and that will get you far enough. Okay, so I need to start in 0, 1, 2, 3. Because I'm summing a pile of things together. So say, so the current is this dot processed I plus I minus 1 plus I minus 2, because I want to sum this one and this one and this one because they are the B's, and I want to compare it to the previous 3 which overlap. So it's I minus 1, minus 1, minus 2, and minus 3. And what is the example? So 5 is the example. If I go up and fill that in, it is where the test. And if I run it, there should be no issue in the testing part. Yeah. Yeah. Now, this is the part where it gets really interesting. So, every day, everyone has a unique puzzle input. It's yeah, you've seen it, it's long. So see in the inputs, see day 00. If I make a copy of that, I change the name of the copy to day 01, and if I do Control A and paste in all the numbers, and if I now run it, yeah, that runs perfectly. So if I look to the answers from my input, it gives 1167 for the part 1, which matches there, and 1130 for the part 2, which matches there. How's that? So there are a few listening bits to watch out for with the template. It's rough, I know. I'm not really good at Java too much. I just know how to Google and stuff, so. Yeah, so it automatically loads the input from the text file here and runs the code against that. And I do have a little bit of boilerplate with, like here, like the instant now stuff. That is to get how long each part is. Like it took 2 milliseconds to convert the list into an array of numbers. It took 0 milliseconds, well, less than 1 millisecond anyway, to get part 1 complete, and you can see it with part 2. So I'm gonna commit this day 01 1 and part 2 with this. gonna push it out. And yeah, this one. So now if you look at the GitLab, don't. Brute forcing it is not a good way. You have to. There are far better ways to do it. Okay, sorry, my mistake. Brute forcing is a good way to learn that there are far better ways, that there have to be far better ways to do it. If that makes sense to you. So, if you want to have a look at the code, check out the Day1 here. So it will be the particular lines you want to look at is 70 to 91. 70 to 91, which is test data. And then 112, 108 to 108 to 127, and that is converting the input to something useful. And then the part 1, 137, 1, 1, 5, 8, part 2. That should give you a rough idea of how to do it. If that makes sense to you. I'm gonna go on and do the part 2 myself. Keep watching if you want. Part 2. Day 2. You know how arrays are fixed length? We kind of have covered that in ET. Well, array list is variable length, so you can add to it. You can expand it as time goes on. It works very well for stuff you don't know the length of ahead of time. I don't, honestly. I've mostly been using stuff like Googling stuff like Java, array, and then it pops up in the stuff like this. So if I search for something like Java array variable length, and it pops up with a pile of answers. So yeah, including one that says yes, use array list. I'm just gonna pop that link in the chat. In my case, it's mostly searching data for data. It's what's a problem, how would I solve it, how would I construct the search query, that type of thing. Between Racket and Diarmid, we actually have a fairly good base. Day 2. So need to add day2 to the AoC main one. Day2. Oh, let's go have a look at the AoC file. So AoC's main one. Main runs whenever you call it. So that calls other ones. So it turns, just create a new day2 object and then run it with the parameter of testing is true. That's what the run method in it is for. It manages on the stuff like that. Oh yeah, look, day2 we've got a more complex type of data. So we have text and numbers together. So I'm just gonna copy in the sample for there, and I want to go and it together is 150 for 1 and 900 for 2, and close up that. No need to touch that again. Main trouble for day2 is how to deal with this type of data, and in it it's actually going to be fairly easy. So we want, like before, to split up line by line, but then we want to be able to split it up into the first one and the second one. That will work. Yeah. So the simplest way I can think of is just splitting this up and adding it. So I'm gonna need to change the type of process to be an array of strings, because I'm just going to go and split up the line, and this is split up the line on the space. So I'm gonna have the first part is gonna be forward, or whatever the direction is, and the second part is going to be the number as a string. Contains works for strings. And I don't need to have a... Oh, let's go back a little bit. So up here, let me just compress these down a tad. I changed the type of processed to be an array list which contains an array of strings. And it used to be just numbers, not an array of strings. So when I try to add a number here, it doesn't work. Well, it warns me saying this does not match, because I need and get rid of that entirely. So this is my entire processing of it. So I split line by line, then I split at the space. So I know the first element of it is the direction, and the second element is the distance as a string. Okay. Okay, so, well, how does this one work? Forward X increases the horizontal position by X units. Down goes down by X units, up goes up by X units. So I need to keep track of two variables. Int horizontal equals 0 and int depth equals 0. So keeping track of how far I go and how deep I go. And now I need to loop through string array in this dot processed. So I'm gonna loop through the instructions and see where we come out. So in each instruction there is the direction. String equals instruction 0. So the first element will always be the direction, and the second one will be the distance. So that's 1. And they want to multiply the final horizontal position with the final depth. So I'm just gonna set this to be horizontal by depth. Yeah, so if direction equals forward and look, it's telling me that's not a good way to do it. Object sequence. Then I need to increase the horizontal plus equals the distance. Yeah. I actually need to go back to the previous day's one to get a converting a string to a number. So I'm going to convert the distance, which is a string, pass it. There we go. So converting the string, which is the second one, you can't have arrays of mismatching types. It doesn't work out so nicely. So I have a string, convert it to a number, and add that dot horizontal. Actually, I'm just gonna go. Yeah, this is the best way. So that's forward done. I need to do down and up. So else if forward I need to go down, and if up, and the number that changes on the down is the depth. But on the up, depth decreases, so changing that minus to a plus. And if I run it now, see you then. Yeah. Part 2 is incorrect because it's not complete. But part 1 is correct. So part 3 is keep track of aim as well. Down and up. Down increases aim. And up decreases aim. And what does forward do? Oop. One sec.